Welcome to Above and Below. Here's what's coming up in today's show. We catch up with Sam, who visits SeaLife Manchester to find out more about the Breed, Rescue and Protect programme and to meet Ernie the giant sea turtle. We talked with our environmentalist Francesco about human environmental damage.
And later on, we'll be talking to Kerry Bean, a mission operations engineer at NASA for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the Dawn mission to Ceres.
We will also be bringing you the latest news from above and below, looking at new discoveries in our solar system, right down to events happening right here on Earth. And we also visit all things cosmological as we talk astrophysics with Chris and Anthony, as well as answering some of your tweets. Hi, I'm Astros, and today we're joined by a wide range of experts, scientists and more to bring you all the information, events and updates from above in space and below with us on Earth. Don't forget to tweet us at AboveBelowTV or use the hashtag AboveBelow to ask any questions. Joining us on the show today for Above are astrophysicists Rowley and Anthony Mercer, we will be talking through to your tweets about recent events in the cosmos. And later on we'll be below with Francesco Volpi, who will be discussing what effects we as humans have on environmental damage. But first, after 7 years and 3.1 million miles, the Dawn orbiter has finally arrived at the dwarf planet Ceres between Mars and Jupiter. Earlier this week, Peter talked with Kerry Bean, a NASA operations engineer working on the Jet Propulsion Laboratory division, to find out more.
So we are about to talk to Kerry Bean, a mission operations engineer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory for NASA and the Dawn mission to Ceres. If you'd like to follow Kerry on Twitter, her Twitter handle is @PlanetaryKerry, which you can find below. Now, here she is, calling us now.
Howdy.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us today. My name's Peter, and we are making a show, like I said, called Above and Below, and we were looking to get your insight into the Dawn mission, if that's okay with yourself.
Yeah.
So we'll start off just by saying, what is your background and what is your role in the Dawn mission itself to Ceres?
So my role is science planning and sequencing on Dawn, and basically the best way to describe my job is that I'm a translator, and I translate between the science team and the engineering team. So the scientists need certain types of pictures and certain types of data to do their work, and so my team, the science operations team, we come together, we kind of translate what does that actually mean, how many pictures, and work with the engineers to write the code that actually goes with the spacecraft to take the pictures the scientists need. So it's super fun.
Awesome. So can you explain to us a little about the Dawn mission itself and what are NASA looking to get out of the whole thing?
Yeah. So the Dawn mission is basically going to the dawn of the solar system. And the asteroids in the asteroid belt are kind of the leftover building blocks of our solar system. And so Dawn is basically a detective, and we're going back to try and figure out how the solar system was formed.
Wow. Sounds really fun and interesting then. Awesome. So with regards to, say, the actual craft itself, the dimensions and the weight of the spacecraft, they're very specific. How is the size and weight determined? And also, is it based on where it's going or the time it's traveling? Can you tell us about the orbiter itself?
So each mission has a whole bunch of science requirements. You have to be able to do certain amounts of things. And once you know what you need to do, then you design the spacecraft to do it. So the two most interesting facts about the Dawn spacecraft are really its solar panels and its ion engine. So I'll talk first about the solar panels. So as you can imagine, we're going out in the asteroid belt. There's not as much sunlight there as there is on Earth. So you need really big solar panels to be able to do your work. So our solar panels, the width is actually the same width as a singles tennis court.
Wow.
And at the time that we launched, we were the longest tip-to-tip spacecraft that had ever been launched. Unfortunately, the Juno spacecraft at Jupiter beat us out because, as you can imagine, at Jupiter they need even bigger solar panels. The other part that is really crucial to Dawn is our ion engines. And this relies on the basic physics principle, is that if you throw something one way, you go a little bit in the other direction. And so that's basically what we're doing. We're taking xenon ions and we are throwing them out of the engine, and the thrust is very gentle. It's about the equivalent to a sheet of paper on your hand. So it's a very light thrust, and to get from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour would take you about 4 days. Wow. However, if you're constantly thrusting, which we've been doing for over 7 years now, you can get an immense amount of change in your velocity. And so Dawn is for patient people, but it's also very efficient. So because of that, we're able to use just 425 kilograms of xenon to able to visit these two different bodies. If we were to use a normal chemical propulsion engine, like most spacecraft use, it would just be thousands and thousands of kilograms, and it would just not be very efficient. Really the ion engine is crucial, being able to complete Dawn's mission.
Wow, okay. So the end of the primary mission is next year, 2016. And in the 3 years of data that you've collected so far, do you think it's a huge step forward, and do you think there'll be another mission to follow it?
Yeah, so Dawn has been an incredibly successful mission so far. In 2011 and 2012, we orbited the asteroid Vesta, and it was a hugely successful mission. You can see behind me some of the results from Vesta, and scientists are still poring over the data and publishing results, and they will for years to come. And so now that we're approaching Ceres, it's just going to be so similar to Vesta in that we're going to have so much beautiful data to look at for such a long time. This is really the largest object left in our asteroid belt, in our inner solar system that we haven't explored. And it's also the first time we've ever visited a dwarf planet. So we're really going to get a good look at these dwarf planets and then kind of see these bodies that didn't quite make it into the planet.
Well, a lot of people are interested in the bright lights on Ceres. Can you give us a little bit more information about those?
Unfortunately, we just don't know yet. That's part of the fun about science. There's so many theories, and soon we'll find out. Soon enough, Dawn will be getting closer, and we're going to get some gorgeous data of the entire planet, including those bright spots. What we know so far is that a couple years ago, the Herschel Space Observatory, which is an ESA mission, actually saw water vapor coming away from Ceres, and it's tied to the bright spots. It also is coming from other locations, but one in particular is that we've seen water vapor coming out of the area where the bright spots are. So something is going on there. And we've also seen these bright spots for a while. Hubble took a whole bunch of pictures of Ceres in 2003 and 2004, and we actually saw the bright spots then. So we've known about them for a while. They're just really interesting, and they really stand out. And also, the other interesting thing about the images is that Ceres is actually really dark. The average surface brightness is about the equivalent of fresh asphalt. And so these bright spots, even though they look like they're pure white, bright, and saturate the image, they're probably about as bright as faded asphalt. So even though they look really bright in the images, they're not actually as bright.
Oh.
So as Dawn gets closer, we're going to have a couple different orbits that eventually will get us to just 375 kilometers above the surface of Ceres. And so once we get to that point, we're going to have some gorgeous data to look at.
And how long does that data take to get from Ceres to Earth?
Right now, one-way light time is about 30 minutes. So when we sit there and we're telling the spacecraft what to do, we usually tell it several days at a time just because of the delay. So we have dedicated times. We use the Deep Space Network to communicate with the spacecraft, and we know when to listen and it knows when to send data. And then it takes 30 minutes for that image to come all the way back from Ceres to Earth.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for this. So just finally, what has your experience been of the entire mission, and what are you expecting to find out from all of this data then?
Yeah. So I joined this mission actually after Vesta. I came in during the cruise from Vesta to Ceres, and so we did a lot of prep work in that meantime to prepare for our Ceres mission. We built our sequences in advance. We've done as much prep as we possibly could, and so now we're really it's really fun to see it being executed now. Instead of planning and thinking about it for so long, now we'll actually see the images coming back and have some real data to work with.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. We're really excited about all of this, and we wish you the best of luck with the rest of the mission.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Interesting stuff to come then. We're now joined by our astrophysicists Christopher and Anthony. Can you give us your insight into the Dawn mission?
Well, the purpose of the Dawn mission is to look at protostars. Not protostars, protoplanets. And these planets haven't changed much since the birth of the sun. And that is why we're looking at them. We want to find out what it is, how the sun formed, and the conditions under which that happened.
Also, in recent events, we had this solar eclipse, but only 90% of the UK were actually able to see it. Why is that, Anthony?
Well, the amount that the percentage which the moon occludes the sun is purely determined by where we are on the planet. If we were, say, a few degrees latitude south, say in the south of England, we would have observed total eclipse, but here in Preston we only observed 90%.
We're now going to look at some tweets from the viewers. John asks, with relation to the future independent mission to Mars, is it possible for humans to actually live there?
There are a lot of things that make it difficult to send people to Mars. Radiation from the sun, the atmosphere on Mars, but these are all things that we will be able to overcome in time, and there is going to come a point where we will have to leave Earth, so Mars is a good place to start.
Michael asks, what exactly is a Goldilocks planet?
Well, the term Goldilocks comes from the children's story, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And the basic premise is it describes the habitable zone in our solar system, which is where our Earth lies. Outside the habitable zone, we have Mars and further planets, but these are too cold to have life on them, and inside it's too warm, such as Venus or Mercury. So that's why it's called a Goldilocks planet. It's not too hot and it's not too cold.
And Claire asks, the New Horizon is to reach Pluto this summer. What do you think we'll find, and will it return as a planet?
The New Horizons mission is designed to study the thin atmosphere around Pluto and some of the surface conditions of Pluto. It's unlikely to reinstate Pluto as a planet, as if we were to change the classifications, many other small planets would be included as well as Pluto.
So a lot is happening right above our heads, but coming up after the break, we bring you above and below news and come back down to Earth with a splash as we visit Sam and his visits to SeaLife Manchester. We will be right back.
How you'll find something new. I can't work it out what it's all about. I won't live my life through you. This ain't real, this ain't true, this ain't what I signed up to. This ain't right, it's no good, I'm no good. Oh, everything is changing, and I've been here for too long. Going through the same things, I've been hurting so long. Got to move on, say I can't do this anymore. If everything is changing, then I know.
Welcome back to Above and Below. Now it's time for our Above and Below news update. The solar eclipse took Britain by storm as millions of Britons witnessed the event at 9:30 a.m. on Friday 20th of March. Only a select few counties were able to see the eclipse while others were affected by cloud coverage. It has also been reported that some birds were in a state of confusion at the disappearing light, and on the return of the sun some sang as if it were dawn. NASA have theorised that one of Saturn's moons, Enceladus, may have warm enough water to sustain life. But studying almost 4 years of data from the Cassini mission, scientists have theorised that Saturn's moon Enceladus may have never before confirmed thermal activity on its ocean floor, which could make the conditions right for life. The Mars One CEO has reportedly stated that he is fully committed. It will all go ahead as planned, despite a lot of criticism from experts and the general public. Mars One is an independent mission to colonise Mars, with candidates from all around the world applying for a chance of a one-way trip to Mars. The Solar Impulse plane, the plane that is fueled by solar power, has made a new record on the second leg of its journey from Oman to India. The distance covered was 1,468 kilometres. This set a new world record for a flight in a piloted solar-powered plane. A warm water channel has been found under one of Antarctica's biggest glacier, Totten, which could account for its rapid shrinking. The 75-mile-long Totten Glacier, more than 18 miles wide, is the largest in East Antarctica and melting more quickly than others in the area. Scientists have uncovered almost 1,451 new species in the ocean in the past year. Those species range from shark to microscopic shrimp, estimated at around 4 discoveries per day, proving that the ocean is the largest unexplored area of our planet. That is the news for this week. Remember to tweet us any of your news, questions or your own experiences to @AboveBelowTV to get involved with the show. Earlier this week, our very own Samuel Lyles visited SeaLife in Manchester. Let's see how he got on.
I'm really excited to be here at SeaLife Manchester. Today we're going to learn about the Breed, Rescue and Protect programme, have a look at some of the sea life on show, and I might even be able to feed a giant turtle. So we're here at SeaLife Manchester, looking at all the different species of fish they have here on show. We wanted to learn more about the conservation about some of these different species, so we spoke to Joe Lavery from the Animal Care team. He's going to tell us a little bit more.
We've got a range of animals in the aquarium. We've got everything from small fish right the way through to black-tip reef sharks. We've even got green sea turtle. We have around 150 species of animal, and that spans various different types of animals. The Breed, Rescue, Protect programme is something that every SeaLife aquarium has in it. So it's a mantra that we try and stick to. So we try and breed as many animals as possible, those that aren't doing as well as they could be in the wild. We try and protect as many as possible, whether that's in situ conservation or ex situ conservation funded by the aquarium. And we try to rescue as many animals as possible. So Ernie, our green sea turtle, is a rescue from the Cayman Islands. It's just one example of our rescue. Keeping fish in aquariums, there's a lot of things to consider. The most important thing, it probably goes without saying, is nice clean water. So the water has to be nice and clean, and we use a big filtration system for that. We also have to have the right amount of salt in the water. It has to be the right acidity level, and then obviously the temperature has to be spot on, which we change throughout the year as well. So there are a lot of factors that all join together to make healthy water for the animals. So the benefits of being in a SeaLife aquarium are vast. We take rescues on and try to give them a quality of life better than they would have elsewhere. So the fly river turtles, for example, that were in a home aquarium are now in a huge tank. They get to spend a lot of time with aquarists, being enriched. They get a better quality of life, hopefully, than they would have done in their previous home. And they spend all their time educating members of the public about the plight of their species. So they're sort of ambassadors for the rest of their species. So we also have a Napoleon wrasse in our tank. Napoleon wrasse are critically endangered in the wild, so much so that the Australian government have banned all fishing around them, and they're only actually legal for export for education purposes. So we took on Bonaparte, who's our Napoleon wrasse, as a way of educating members of the public about the stuff that's going on. They're such an expensive species because they're so big. and it's very easy for a fisherman to fish one out, and he can get a lot of money from it. And we're trying to change that perspective and make them worth more alive in an aquarium or in a conservation setting than they are dead. So there are a lot of breeding programs in place for them. They don't necessarily do very well simply because of the aggression that the males and the females have towards each other. But we are trying. We have Napoleon wrasse at 6 sites across the UK, I believe. So we're trying as hard as we can to install a program and get something successful off the ground.
Now it's feed time for Early the Turtle. So we've finished our journey at SeaLife, and now it's time for me to pluck up the courage and see if I can touch a crab. Thanks for watching. Now back to the studio.
So it looks like Sam had a great time down in Manchester. And remember to follow SeaLife Manchester at SeaLife Monk for update of information of all the new attractions in SeaLife. Now joining us is Francesco, our environmentalist. Francesco, you are very passionate about the environment and protecting our planet. So what can you tell us about how we as species are affecting our environment so badly?
Well, hello everybody. Humans compared to other species are very resource dependent. So we use sources to develop our own society. But that has caused for a lot of sources we have here on Earth to be either overused or just completely used, as is happened for, say, copper, or as happened before with gold, running out of gold, running out of platinum, running out of oil. In the next 100 years, we might not have any more oil at all unless we start fracking more. So compared to other species, we depend a lot on sources that other species do not need. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, while at SeaLife, there are a lot of discussion about intense fishing. Can you explain to us what that is?
Yes. Well, basically, there are some rules that have been established by the United Nations by FAO, which is an organization that controls agriculture and animal husbandry in the United Nations. The problem has been that for a number of years, there hasn't been any restrictions on how people fish, especially for mass fishing. So instead of using proper nettings, people are using netting that don't let bigger fish run through. So instead of just catching the fish you need, let's say salmon, you catch dolphins, you catch sharks, you catch some other whales as well. That has entailed that a lot of the mammals that we have in the oceans are dying as a consequence of fishing. And also we are running out of fishes in the Mediterranean Sea. A lot of fishes we used to have are not as popular anymore. That's because more countries have developed around the area, and so there's more fishing going on, and more intense fishing is not as regulated as it should be. So yeah.
So how would we rectify the problem?
Well, one thing would be to regulate it more. As far as I know, there isn't really a control on fishing as in on the sea. Not very many countries have the control on the ground, so when they fish it, like when the boats come back, but that is not really controlled as much as it should be as well. Also, I'm fairly confident countries that are not as socially stable, let's say, as our Europe or America, don't have any control at all, and that definitely doesn't help the situation.
What other kind of animal habitats could we be disturbing due to a need for food?
Well, there is, if you think about radars, they have a big impact on whales because they communicate with each other in like sonar sort of signals, and our radars impact their communication, and that's why a lot of them end up, washing down our beaches, which usually used to happen as much before. Another thing we're doing with pollution, we're destroying the coral reef. For instance, in Australia, there has been, and there still is, a huge movement to protect the Great Coral Barrier of Australia. As far as our sort of ground is concerned, it's just the expansion of agriculture. Say in Brazil, we are cutting down the forest to expand our soy and corn fields, and we're restricting the natural habitat of many of the animals that are usually native of many countries like Nicaragua, Brazil, and even America, really.
Yep. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you want to know more about environmental issues, make sure to check our website, So check your local council website for more information on how you can do your part in staying green. Now that is it for today's show. Join us next week for another Above and Below. Goodbye.